Hello there and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Michelle Emerson and I love helping teachers with all things technology, organization, and productivity. If you've been following along for a while, you are probably aware that I sell digital resources for teachers on a marketplace called TeachersPayTeachers or TPT. I've gotten a lot of questions about how to get started as a seller and some of my best tips. So in today's video, I'm gonna share my personal journey as a TPT seller. And this will be the first video in a little mini series here on my channel. I'm gonna cover how to get started as a seller, how to create products, what mistakes to avoid, and what I wish I had known when I first got started.
I wish you well on your quest.
Now, before we jump in, I do want to make a few things clear. I've been asked about my journey as a seller and how to get started for years now, but I've always been very hesitant to make a video on it for a few different reasons. Number one, everyone's journey is different and I don't want to be a source of comparison for anyone else. Number two, I don't want to come across as boastful in any way if I share success that I've had. And number three, there are a lot of varying opinions about whether teachers should be selling resources to other teachers. I could go on an entire rant about that, but I will spare you for now. But recently, the number of requests I've gotten to create a video like this or create an entire series about how to get started as a seller has multiplied by probably about 10. And I think once again, that's due to a few different things. Number one, teachers obviously have historically received low pay, and with the current state of the economy, I think teachers are trying to find ways to supplement their income. I also think just in general, teachers are trying to explore other avenues due to general dissatisfaction with their job. Obviously, there are a lot of issues within the state of education, and unfortunately, those aren't going to be fixed overnight. The ultimate goal for my content has always been to help teachers. So because I have so many teachers reaching out to me, my goal through this series is just to provide resources and information to help them supplement their income or just develop new skills through product creation. So I found TPT when I was in college. It was actually before my student teaching. I was tutoring a girl and I needed sight word games. So I just went onto Google, I searched sight word games and it brought me to TPT. I think I downloaded some sort of like popcorn sight word game and I was hooked. I was like, this is great. It's already ready to go. It didn't cost me any money. Like, this is what I needed in my life. So my obsession grew because I was a broke college student. So I continued to download free resources throughout college, my student teaching, and into my first year of teaching. And then I discovered clip art. Y'all, I downloaded so much free clip art. It was mostly all Krista Walden from Creative Clips. She would put out these little freebies during different holidays and seasons, and I would download all of them. And it was like borders for pages and little icon images and just anything I could get my hands on for free. I was game. I went back and counted. I downloaded over 100 free resources from TPT before I ever purchased anything. And y'all, there was so much Chevron. If you were here for the Chevron craze on TPT, you understand. But I did officially make my first TPT purchase on August 13th, 2014. It was right around the start of my first year of teaching. It was a surf-themed behavior clip chart because I was going for a beach theme my first year and I utilized clip charts at the time. I believe it was $3.50 when I purchased it. And I remember like that was an investment. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna spend this $3.50 to have a themed clip chart. Then I went back to downloading a bunch more free resources before making any other purchases.
More money, more problems.
Now let's shift gears and talk about becoming a seller on TPT, because that's the logical next step. You know, I start spending money, I need to make some of it back. So why did I start selling on TPT? I already mentioned I was pretty broke. So my goal was just to earn enough money to pay for things that I was buying for my classroom. Like that was the dream at the time. I also was creating a lot of resources to use with my students because at the time we didn't really have like a curriculum. We kind of had curriculum pieces we could pull from, but I was making almost everything myself. And my thought was, okay, if I'm making it and I'm using it with my students, some other teacher can use it too. Plus, This is when I was big into Instagram and following teacher blogs. Those were super popular at the time. And I kind of had this philosophy of, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, like there's no reason that I can't also sell my resources. So now we know the why. Let's talk about the how. I knew I needed a store name, right? And all these teachers had like their blog names and it was their same name on Instagram. So I'm like, okay, I'm creating a brand essentially. I need to have something good. And I remember standing in the shower and finally having Pocketful of Primary come to me because I love alliterations. And at the time I was teaching second grade and I thought I would only ever teach second grade or primary grades in general. So I thought it was the perfect name. Fast forward a few years, I would switch to fourth grade and it no longer made sense, but here we are. So I went ahead and created an Instagram with that handle, Pocketful Primary, still have it today. And I think I made the Instagram in February, but I did not post for the first time until March 17th. And this is now 2015 because it's the spring of my first year of teaching. I'm laughing because on that day, that single day, I posted 16 times.
Which to me seems excessive.
That's not a thing anymore. You post once a day, maybe once a week, and that's it. 16 times. It was basically a collection of photos that I had been taking since I started teaching, and I just put them all out into the Instagram universe at one time. Around that same time, I went ahead and created my TPT store under the same name, and I remember I didn't realize that your first product had to be a free product. Lesson learned. So I had created this simple machines test for my students. It was one of those things where we were covering simple machines in science. I needed an assessment. I went on TPT, couldn't really find one, created it myself, and then I'm like, hey, if I had to create it, someone else out there needs it. Boom, first product. But I was wrong because my first product had to be a freebie and I had already decided in my mind that my simple machines test would be a paid product. So I had to reverse a little bit. So because we were coming up on, you know, St. Patrick's Day, because again, this is like early March sometime, I had created this little rainbow milk experiment to do with my students. You take milk and you put a couple drops of food coloring and you take a Q-tip with a little drop of like dish soap at the end and you touch it down and the colors all spread out. So I had created a recording sheet to go with this experiment and that became my first TPT free product. I tried to go back and find the exact day that I posted it and I couldn't because the revision history on TPT doesn't go back far enough, but I know that it was up prior to St. Patrick's Day because I posted about it on Instagram on St. Patrick's Day. And then the next day, March 18th, I posted about my simple machines test being posted, but I'm pretty sure that I had actually posted it like late February, early March. It is also worth noting that at the time, I made both of these in Microsoft Word.
This office will not be using any new technology ever.
That's the state of design that we were in at the time. Now it is worth noting, during this time, first year of teaching, my personal laptop had died at the beginning of the school year, okay? So not only did I not have a personal laptop to work on teaching things at home, I also did not have a personal laptop for product creation, which we're gonna talk more about this in a later video, but do not create products on any school devices or school accounts. It has to be a personal device. So during this time, I was basically using Billy's laptop when he would let me, and I remember he limited me to not downloading any more than 5 fonts on his computer, because that was also very popular at the time, having a font collection of hundreds of different fonts that you would pull from and use in your products. But once I actually got my first free and paid product posted, I was hooked and I went into full-on product creation mode. 3 days later, I had another freebie posted. It was on how to dye an Easter egg, but it's no longer my store and I don't know why. The day after that, I posted my second paid product, which was Easter Peep Arrays, which shockingly still sells. And I'm very sorry to any of you who have purchased it. I have updated it once since it initially went up, but still. And then I don't know what I was doing in the month of April because I didn't post anything, but in May, I posted this little bundle of like telling time activities and I titled it it's summertime, which was super cute, and having themed resources was all the rage at the time. But in hindsight, no one's gonna type that in the search bar. No one's gonna find it. It did not sell well. Spoiler alert. So then it was summertime.
That's a pun.
And once again, I continued creating a ton of resources. I was working my summer job because, you know, teachers, we tend to have summer jobs in order to make some extra money. I was a receptionist at a shuttle company, and I remember there were times where our last shuttle of the day would be canceled because no one booked on it, but I would still have to stay in the office until like 9 p.m. And I would literally be in an office by myself. I would bring a laptop, whether it was mine or Billy's, because I did end up getting a new laptop. And I would just sit there and I would create products. I remember making this huge vocabulary bundle that was over 500 pages, and it was a monster, but I felt so proud when I finally finished it. However, my products were all over the place. At one point, I started creating digital papers, like backgrounds that you would put behind slides and designs, and I didn't have like a niche yet, right? I didn't have something that I was known for. I just created anything and everything that I felt inspired to create. But going into my second year of teaching, I officially started my blog, pocketfulprimary.com. It used to be a blog on, hold on, I have the date, August 27th. So this was like right around the start of the school year. And I remember posting like pictures of my classroom and the activities I had created. I then got the new computer in September, which this job as a receptionist, I not only worked it in the summer, but I also would work some of like the weekends while I was still teaching. So I continued to work on products, and that following summer, which was the summer of 2016, so at this point, I'd been selling a little over a year. I went to the TPT conference, which that year was in Orlando, and I remember feeling very excited and seeing all of these teacher bloggers that I followed online for years, but also quickly realizing how much I didn't know. And so much of it just went over my head, and it was like, wow, like I still have a lot to learn. So, brief overview of products before we move on. During my first year as a TPT seller, I created a total of 70 products. Of those 70, 11 were freebies. Currently, my store has 139 products. 7 are inactive, so 132 that are available for sale. That means I created over half of my products just during my first year as a seller. I have now been a seller for 7.5 years, but during the last 6.5 years, I've only created an additional like 70 products. So it goes to show you how busy I was during that first year and the amount of work that I put in order to build up my store. As I mentioned, my products, however, were all over the place, and it really took me, I would say, about 3 years to kind of find my niche and realize that I wasn't the best at creating like these designs, like the digital papers. I wasn't even the best at creating like curriculum-based products. However, I was really good at creating templates that other buyers could take and customize and make to fit their needs. So that's what I started focusing on. And even though later on as a seller, I wasn't creating as many products, those are still the products that sell the best because they fit my niche and they're what people come to me for. By the way, is it niche or niche? I've heard it both ways, and I feel like it comes out of my mouth both ways, just depending on what I'm saying, but y'all know what I mean. Now let's talk about sales. And I was hesitant to include this in here because once again, people are they're judgy, unfortunately. However, I also know they're curious. And I know you're like, Michelle, when did you first make a sale? How much money do you make? Like, is this something that I could replace my teaching salary with? So I'm gonna share some details, just not all of the details.
I bet you would love all the details.
I went back and looked. My first sale was on March 22nd, which from my memory, that Simple Machines test, because that was my first sale, went up like the end of April. I don't think it was, or not April, what comes before? February. I think it was at the end of February before March. So the product had been up about a month before I made that first sale. I still remember Billy and I were out at dinner and I had a salad with shrimp and mandarin oranges. I still remember this. And I got the little cha-ching notification on my phone, and part of me was like, what is that noise? I've never heard that noise. And I looked over, and I had made a TPT sale, and I think I legitimately like screamed out. Thankfully, there were not many people in the restaurant, but I was so stinking excited. It's also worth mentioning at this time, I just had the free seller account. So the free seller account, you don't make as much money on the products, but I also wasn't sure if I was really gonna sell anything. So once I made my first sale, I did go ahead and invest in upgrading to a paid account. I'm gonna talk more about that in a later video. So I did write down my sales for my first year, which technically wasn't a full year because I didn't post a product until February, but in the year 2015, from February to December, I sold $566.28. And from that I earned, so like the money I actually get, because TPT takes a cut of it, $399.82. So that was over the course of 10 months. And I will say by the end of that year, my sales were steadily increasing, which was a good sign. Then the next year, 2016, over the course of the full year, I sold a little over $10,000, and from that I earned about $8,800. That's a big increase, obviously. During that time, I've been posting more and more products, which obviously helps to increase sales, but also 2016 is the year I started my YouTube channel. And I quickly realized that was a way for me to showcase my products. I didn't go into it thinking that I would use it as a marketing tool, but I realized that it was one. So just by sharing what I was doing in my classroom and how I was using the products I created, it served to market them, and that did increase my sales. I remember distinctly during this time telling my mom how much I had made and telling her that my goal for the next year, 2017, was to match my teaching salary. And I'm calling you out, Mom. She laughed at me and was basically like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Well, spoiler alert, I will tell you during my third year, so 2017, I did end up making more from Teachers Pay Teachers than what I was making as a teacher. However, that is fantastic, and I'm very proud of, once again, all of the work that I put in. We do need to talk about some of the negatives though, because that sounds great. There's more to it though. During especially that first year, but then even the second year because I started YouTube, I did not have a life. All I did was work. I was working nonstop. I was pulling all-nighters. I was working every night when I got home from teaching, basically every weekend. I remember working in the car if Billy and I were driving somewhere. Thankfully I say thankfully, it wasn't thankfully, but at this time, Billy was working as a receptionist at a hotel, and he would work the night shift a lot. And that's why I would pull all-nighters, because I was home by myself anyway. So I'm like, I'm gonna stay up and watch TV and create products. But looking back, it definitely wasn't healthy.
We are office drones. All we do is work.
Plus, besides just the time that it took and the amount of work I had to put in, you do have to spend money in order to make money. And that's a super cliche saying, but in order to become a more successful seller, I had to purchase commercial use clip art. That's something we will talk about later on. Commercial use licenses for any fonts that I was using. I had to purchase camera equipment because I had to create the YouTube videos, but also be able to take pictures of my products. And I had to create or purchase like Adobe subscriptions, and all of that did start to add up, and I was spending money in order to make money. However, all that being said, for me, the good definitely outweighs the bad. I am so extremely grateful for the opportunities that TPT and all of my customers have allowed me, because I was able to shift from this mindset of I'm struggling, to make ends meet from paycheck to paycheck as a teacher, to I can now do what I love to do because I'm not worried about, am I gonna make rent this month? And through that, I discovered this new passion for supporting teachers. I think product creation was the first avenue where I realized, wow, I can create this one thing and it can help thousands of teachers around the world. Like, that's a really powerful feeling. So incredibly, incredibly grateful. I do want to give just a couple general tips, but like I said, I do have other videos coming on like the step-by-step for getting started as a seller.
I'm telling them my secret recipe for success.
Tip number one is to utilize TPT University. This is a free almost like mini course that TPT has on their website, and it will walk you through literally everything step by step. You can learn about posting products and UTM codes and marketing, and especially copyright and trademark. That's kind of like a sub tip of this tip. Make sure that you learn the ins and outs of copyright and trademark, because that is one of the #1 biggest mistakes that I see new sellers making. They directly copy other resources, they use copyrighted material, they infringe on trademarks, and that not only is illegal, but it can get your store shut down. So make sure that you truly have a good understanding before you start selling. Tip number 2 is to utilize the sellers forum on TPT. This is a place to post questions, get answers, and look through over 2 million posts that are on there. So I guarantee you any question you already have has probably been answered. Tip number 3 is to differentiate yourself. If you are posting a product, it needs to, in some way, shape, or form, be new and innovative and different than what's already available. Do not just copy what another seller is doing, whether that means the type of product they're creating or their overall design. First of all, just because it works for them doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. And you risk your product getting reported for copyright or trademark infringement, depending on what you're creating. So find what you're really good at, run with it. And I recommend not even really looking at other sellers' resources, because you don't want to create something that too closely mirrors what's already available. Tip number 4 is to market yourself and your products. Just because you create something and post it doesn't mean it's going to sell. If you've created it, you have to tell people about it. Especially now that there are so many products on TPT, you can't rely solely on people going on, searching, and finding your product. You have to tell people about it. Post on social media. You can run ads. I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of ads, so I'm not super familiar with that, but there are a lot of different ways to get it out there that you have this product available and make people want to purchase it. And finally, tip number 5, be willing to put in the work. Hopefully you kind of got a sense from this video of how much work I put in, especially at the beginning, but don't get discouraged if you start posting products and you don't see success right away. Most of the top sellers have been at this for years, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort in order to build up your store, be able to market it, start making those sales, find your niche. It all takes time. So put in the work, put in the time, and the success will follow. Obviously, those tips are generic and you're like, Michelle, I need more information. Like, what do you mean by that? As I mentioned, this is just the first video in a little mini series I have coming your way. In the next video, I'm gonna show you step by step how to actually sign up as a seller and get your store ready to go. So make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss it. Go ahead and hit the notification bell. That way, when the next video goes live, you will hear about it. Also hit the thumbs up. I skipped over that part, but you know, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Share it out with any of your teacher friends. If you have that other teacher friend and you've been chit-chatting about starting a TPT store, make sure you share this with them so then you can kind of go through the journey together. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.